would you be able to introduce yourselves and what you do here, please?
Yep, hi, I'm Meg. I am a student admin officer within the student administration team, and I oversee all of the admissions for the Faculty of Health Sciences and Wellbeing.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel. I'm a first-year biopharmaceutical sciences student.
So we're here to discuss about clearing itself. Now, Meg, could you just give us a bit of an overview for someone who may have never heard of it? What is clearing exactly?
Yeah, so clearing is basically the opportunity for universities to recruit to programmes that maybe they haven't reached their intake for the September. But the main thing is for applicants to try and find a place to start to study in September on a university degree who maybe either haven't been given an offer or aren't holding a place or haven't even applied yet.
Now, from what I understand, Nathaniel, you came through a version of clearing. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with it?
So I'm not the best person at exams, and when I got my results on exam day, they were not as good as I'd hoped. I'd expected this, so I'd applied for the foundation version of my degree. But over the summer, we were taking the dog for a walk at the beach, and I got a call, and it was someone from the university going, "Hi, do you want to come on the full course through clearing?"
Perfect.
And I was a bit taken aback, and I said, "Can I get back to you?" And then I got back to them and was like, "Yeah, that sounds great."
So we literally just got a phone call when you're out on the beach, and it was just like somebody literally offering you the place. That easy.
Yeah, didn't have to apply or anything.
How did you feel after the dog walk?
Really confused, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it could be a bit of a confusing time itself. So, again, with clearing them, Meg, who can apply for it?
So anybody that doesn't already have a place at another institution can apply into any university for clearing, but also anybody that hasn't even applied at that point through the year can apply for clearing. So if you've already got your grades and maybe you achieved them the previous year but you wanted a year out, they can apply for clearing. Or if you didn't achieve the grades that you wanted, so maybe you haven't achieved your first place university, anyone can then apply for clearing and try and find themselves a place for that September.
So anybody, pretty much anybody.
Pretty much anybody, as long as you're not holding an offer at a university elsewhere, anybody is able to apply for clearing.
Fantastic. Sounds quite similar to my experience myself back a few years ago. So yeah, I was.
Yeah, mine too. A long time ago.
Yeah, likewise. So tell us a little bit about some common misconceptions about what clearing
Yeah, I think a common one is that clearing only begins in August on A-level results day. So clearing actually begins way back in July, so the start of July. So it's open then from the 5th of July, and then anybody that's already got a qualification can apply for clearance. Like I said, so if you'd maybe achieved your grades a couple of years ago, you had a few years out, you can apply then from the start of July, or if you're thinking of maybe doing a change of career, you can apply from then. It's not just in August on A-level results day, and it's not just for those that are expecting results that year. So that is something that I think people don't realise, is that it's for anyone and it starts a lot earlier in the year.
Yeah.
It also goes on a bit later as well. It doesn't actually close until October.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You would obviously prefer to have your place secured and sorted for the start of September, but you don't have to make all of your decisions on that one A-level results day, which is seen as the clearing day.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of time if you need to think about things to make sure that it's the right choice for you.
Perfect. You mentioned something there as well about the if someone's maybe gone abroad for some, or maybe taken a year out or something like that. That example itself, then, so you can always just use clearing as a comeback, and you don't have to go through the full process itself.
No, you don't have to go through the full cycle, because not everyone maybe wants to know what they want to do in the September, October, the year before a programme starts. Obviously, some people do, and if you are 17, 18-year-old, it falls into that natural cycle. But, you might have got a job, or you might have said, gone overseas for the year, and then you come back maybe May, June time, and you think, what am I going to do? I've actually always fancied doing maybe a course somewhere. So you don't have to have decided months and months previous. Obviously, there is the main application cycle through UCAS that a lot of our applicants apply through the year. But clearing is there for those applicants that maybe hadn't made that choice earlier in the year or just needed a bit longer to think about it.
So we've got results day coming up soon.
Yeah.
Now, what options, and I've kind of covered a little bit there already, but what options do students have maybe in terms of getting in contact? How would they go about kind of getting through to clearing? Is it online? Is it on the phone?
Yeah, so there's a lot more options than there were back in our day.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing, if you've already applied for a university place, if you've already applied with us, is to go onto UCAS and see if you have an offer.
Yeah.
See if your offer has changed from conditional to unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
If it hasn't, log on to a portal. So we have our own portal for an applicant to log on to, see if there's anything on there that explains why your offer maybe hasn't changed to unconditional. If not, you can then phone the university. We'll have web chats. You can email universities. They all have phone lines open very early on in the morning. I think ours tends to start around 7:30 a.m. in the morning for applicants to try and get hold of either the admissions team or somebody on a clearing helpline and just try and find out what's going on with your application. The main thing is if you have applied and you don't have an unconditional offer, is not to panic. There could be a genuine reason. It could be, for instance, that you're sitting a GCSE and those results don't come out till the following week. So there's always lots of conditions as to why somebody maybe hasn't then received an offer from a university. So the main thing is definitely not to panic. If you go on the website, there'll be all of the information about how you can contact them. But if you haven't already applied to university, so you're not on the UCAS system expecting to get an offer, the best place to go is the website to find out what courses are in clearing and then which numbers to call, because a lot of them will have a certain phone number or a certain web chat for certain courses.
Yeah. Now, yeah, because a lot of that, the one thing, kind of key thing you said there is don't panic.
Don't panic.
Back in our day, when I did it, my first thirds were panic a little bit. Let's be real. But I think it is once I don't at the time I don't think I knew much about clearing when I went through that stage, and once I kind of got through it, it was actually no, this is a bit easier than I thought, and I came away with the offer I wanted eventually.
Yeah, I think it is. It's so hard not to panic in that situation, but use the resources you've got. So try logging on to UCAS if you've applied elsewhere. If you applied for a university, try using a portal if you've got access to that. We'll often send out text messages, emails. So look at all of that before you panic. And then if you still don't have the answer maybe that you're looking for, then by all means phone. Use the web, the live chat, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of places you can try and find out information through those days. We have a lot more staff available to support applicants, because it is a very intense, scary, heightened situation. We want to be there to support applicants as best as possible. So we do try and offer as much information available as we can.
Fantastic. Now, Nathaniel, you told us a little bit about the actual your results day, if you like, when obviously you took your dog for a walk, and that's when you got your phone call. Before that stage, before you obviously went out and you went on the beach and things like that, can you tell us a little bit what was going through your mind and what was going through your head on results day when you got your initial results?
So I'm very bad at exams, and my results day wasn't great. I knew it wasn't going to be great though. I'd been very stressed at the time of the exams, and I ended up having a nosebleed during my chemistry exam, and I ended up having to go to hospital, which obviously wasn't great for getting good results. So on the day, I was a little bit disappointed, but I thought I did a BTEC and 2 A-levels, and I've got enough points to get the foundation degree, and I was okay. I panicked a bit, and I was a bit disappointed, but I thought, it's okay, it'll be okay. And then a bit further down the line, dog for a walk at the beach, and got the call, and I was honestly just more confused than anything. I didn't actually accept. I had to say, can I call you back? Because I was so confused, and but I called them back, and they sort of explained everything, and I thought, why not?
Did you take the advice of don't panic, or did you actually panic a little bit?
I tried to take the advice of don't panic, but
happens to the best of us.
I think it's a good example of how clearing isn't just, I think that's another, going back to a question you asked previous about misconceptions, is that clearing is actually only available for those that don't do as well as they might have hoped, or didn't achieve the grades that they wanted to get into a certain course. Clearing's also there for those that actually do better. And as you did, you applied for a course that you thought was the right level for you based on what you thought you were going to achieve. And it was great that you actually achieved better. So therefore, you were able to go for a course that had a higher entry criteria. But so a lot of applicants are the same in your situation. They'll apply for a university or for a program that you think, I'm probably going to achieve that based on my previous exams. And then it comes to it and they've actually done really, really well. So phone them up, have a look around. Is there a course that maybe you thought was too far for you that you didn't apply for because you thought, I'm not going to achieve that? They might have spaces.
Clearing can be different courses as well, can't it? So if you apply for one course and perhaps don't get the grades, or maybe get above the grades, you could get moved to a different course. Yeah,
and obviously every program has a different entry criteria based on different reasons. So you might not achieved the grades for one program, but there could be one really similar that you have achieved the grades for. And it could be a case of having a conversation with one of the admissions tutors that's available. Could we have all academic staff available through Clearing as well to offer support, especially for those applicants that are applying for a course that maybe wasn't what they were initially thinking. So there's always academics on hand to explain, actually, well, this course involves that as well, or this course has elements of that program. So if you do this, you can still go on into that career path or whatever it might be. So I think it's important to remind people that Clearing isn't just for those that haven't done as well as they hoped. It's an opportunity to try and get a place on a programme in any situation.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, that was going to be my next question. So you answered that already, thank you. So
okay.
It was kind of about that. It was going to be more kind of, let's see, you've done better than you predicted. What are your options? So that's answered that absolutely perfectly.
I think one good thing to remember with that, though, is if you have a place on a university course, is not to let that go until you've secured one elsewhere.
Yep.
And so this is where it becomes a little bit of a, I don't know how to describe it, but so you'd have to be speaking maybe with another institution, and they can give you a verbal offer as such, but you're still holding an offer at another university. So our line would always be, just be clear and make sure that you're confident that you do have a place elsewhere before it's called release yourself into Clearing. So if you're holding an offer, you can be released into this big bad world of Clearing, which it's not. But and then if you're released from Clearing, you no longer have that place at that institution. So just be sure that the phone call you've had elsewhere maybe, or even on another programme at the same place, is definitely secured. But it's definitely an option. If you've done better, try and find yourself a different course.
Fantastic.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, fantastic. And that goes the same as well for maybe different universities as well, would you say? So let's say you went for, like, if there was one that was maybe closer to home, or there was one that was maybe kind of in a city that you would maybe prefer going to, would that be an option as well then?
Absolutely, yeah. So as long as they've got places available on that programme, and I think the best place to find out is either on their own website or via UCAS. If it's a personal choice for all applicants, and they have to go from hundreds and hundreds of courses and universities down to 5 choices if they've applied through the main cycle, and then pick one of them as their top choice. So that's a big decision to make, and circumstances might change throughout the year. So things are different for applicants come results day. So yeah, if they want to try and find somewhere nearer to home, or I said maybe in a different city that they didn't think they were prepared to move to, but maybe they are now, then use Clearing as that opportunity to try and do that.
Perfect. Could you take us through that stage then? So you've touched on it a little bit. Could you go from like the first stage of you get results, they are maybe different, better, wherever it may be, and take us through that exact process of kind of changing your course or changing university?
So the best way to do it is to make sure you've actually got a place that you had applied for. So it's most likely gone to an unconditional, but as you said, you've achieved better grades. It's just to start making phone calls, start looking on websites, inquiring about if they've got places available. A number of courses would require interviews. So in the faculty I work in, we have a lot of health programmes. They require interviews. So some decisions aren't going to be made on that day. So it could be a case of you have to do an internal application form for a university, or maybe leave your information. They'll contact you to arrange maybe a call with an academic tutor. Some of them might arrange an interview. So there's a whole kind of step-by-step. It's effectively the normal application cycle condensed into like a couple of hours or a couple of days. So the main thing is not to let go of any place you have until you've been verbally offered a place elsewhere. So that could be instantly on the phone if it's a programme that doesn't require any additional requirements. You don't need to do an interview. You've met our point. We're like, we've got places. We'll happily make you an offer. Then go away into UCAS, release yourself into Clearing, and then you add the new choice. So on Clearing, it'd be a case of release the one you've got, add the new one in. So take one out your cart, add another one in.
It's like
effectively,
shopping.
like shopping.
Yeah, basically.
But there's been a whole process before that. But it's just making sure that you're confident that you've definitely got that.
So that's kind of one of the main takeaways I've got so far, is just be confident you've got that like almost have that baseline offer, and just as a fallback.
It's difficult for institutions at the time because we can't make a physical offer if somebody's holding an offer elsewhere. So at that point, it is very much verbal. But if they've met all our conditions, they've spoken to us, they've done their internal application, we would have a record of that to say, if you apply, we will say yes, but you need to pop us in your shopping cart.
Perfect. Yeah, in the shopping.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a perfect way to describe it. To be fair, it makes it sound much less daunting as well. I think that way.
But for everyone, it won't happen on that Clearing day. So on that A-level results day, which is the main time of clearing, as we've established, even though it can happen earlier. For courses that do have additional requirements, be it auditions or sending in portfolios or interviews, we're still making decisions 4, 5, 6 days after clearing, and then even for weeks after that. But so don't panic if it's not all sorted on that day.
Yeah.
As long as you've made the right inquiries, the right calls.
And again, don't panic.
That is the big message. Don't panic.
Yeah.
It's the hardest bit.
It's the hard. Yeah, it is.
It is the hardest bit. Yeah, to be fair.
Absolutely.
I think if you look, as you said, if you look on the websites, if you call someone up, they can help. They can guide you through the process. But don't panic is the best
And I
advice.
think being prepared as well. So for whatever situation you're in, if you have already applied through UCAS and to a certain uni, when you phone them up, have your details ready. So have your application number, have your qualifications. Just be as prepared as you can on that day. And I know it's hard in all of the stress of the morning, but just try and have everything together. So when you do finally get to speak to the right person, you can hopefully get the right answers.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's a very busy day, what's going on. And we do tend to get a lot of calls. People who, I suppose, at that point don't even know their name because they're just so panicked. But just try and be as prepared as you can be, I think.
Perfect. So I'll take it back to another scenario. Again, this one is a little bit more close to home. So you've woken up, checking results, and you tanked it. When I say close to home, it's my example.
Mine too.
Yeah, like tanked your results, not the way you wanted to. Apart from the bit of don't panic, can you just break down that full stage of, right, you've seen the results, what happens next?
Yeah, so had you applied to a university?
Yes,
Yeah.
funnily enough, this one.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to do in that situation is don't assume that you didn't then get an offer. So many
That's what I did.
many universities and programs are able, so if somebody's applied to them through the year, you've engaged in the process, you've had an interview, we've obviously made you an offer, and you've fallen short, maybe tanked, but fallen short of the entry criteria, we might have still been able to make you an offer. So log on to UCAS, log on to the portal if there is one, to see if you then do have an offer. If you don't, then call them up. Again, like I said, it could be to do with because we're waiting on an additional GCSE, or you need to complete a DBS, for instance, if it's for a health programme. It might not always be because you didn't achieve the points, but if you didn't achieve the points and then you've logged on and you've contacted university and you didn't receive an offer, again, don't panic, but that is when you then need to start doing inquiries. So maybe ask the institution, do they have any other programmes similar that have a lower entry requirement? Because we do often have suites of programmes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's a whole range of media programmes, for instance, within journalism, there's a whole range of health programmes. So
We sometimes get people from the pharmacy course who do our course.
yeah,
Personally, I
and we
think
have
it's
foundation
an upgrade,
program,
but-
foundation programs that can lead into a main cycle program. So it might not be a complete at end of the line stopping because you haven't achieved the points at that institution. There could be other options. If there isn't there, then obviously then you can go onto other websites, have a look on UCAS. But I think the main thing is to check where you were at first and not just assume because you didn't get the points that you're then not on the programme.
Yeah.
Because it might not actually be that way at all.
It's important to remember that it's not just about the exam results.
Absolutely,
There are, especially if it's a different sort of program, for something like that, I imagine a portfolio can be quite
Yeah.
important. So even if your exam results aren't good, you're more than just your exam results.
Yeah, absolutely. I like myself and yourself, not very good exams. So yeah. So
And I
doing
think that's
well.
the thing, and universities are aware of that, and there's so much pressure when it comes to the exam period. And obviously I can't speak on behalf of every university, I can't necessarily speak on behalf of every programme we have here, but if somebody's applied to us, they've engaged with us, they've made us their first choice, we potentially interviewed them, made them an offer, and they fall a couple of points short. If we are able to, we would like to still make that person an offer.
Yeah.
And I think a university always wants to, work with an applicant. They want an applicant to want us as much as we want them.
Yeah.
It's a two-way relationship, isn't it? So, but that might not always happen. So don't quote me on that one. And
yeah.
obviously, certain courses have a lot more applicants than other courses, and certain courses have placement caps, so they can only take so many applicants. But if possible, I'm sure a university would prefer to take an applicant that they've had throughout the cycle.
Perfect. Now, Nathaniel, just take us a little bit back in general, not so much in terms of clearing, just tell us a little bit about what your student experience has been.
Yeah, so far it's been really good. I was worried that with my results I wasn't going to do very well on the course, but that's not the case at all.
How's it all going?
It's going really, really well. Everything's good. You know, I get to see lots of fun stuff in labs. You know, not setting anything on fire yet, which is disappointing. But I'm sure my lecturers are happy about that.
Are you a home student? Do you live in halls?
I live in Halls, Pans.
Pans, yes, yeah.
I lived in Pansbank
Yep.
many years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was Clanny myself, so.
Well, I was Clanny and Pansbank. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect. So overall, enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. So last question then, as we wrap up, would you both be able to give us any kind of final advice or tips for anybody clearing next year? I think there's one that's been stood out so far for us.
Big one is don't panic. For me, the second one is access and log into all the resources that you have. So if you've applied, log into UCAS, log into University Portal, read clearly what it is that's in front of you. So is it the same course you applied for? If it's an unconditional offer, just be very clear on what it is that you are looking at. And just be prepared. So maybe in a few days before the results day, note down all the numbers. So universities will advertise their clearing phone numbers, their clearing specific web pages in advance of A-level results day. So make a note of all the numbers, the web pages that you might need, and just be prepared as possible when you are then making those phone calls on the day. But
be prepared, don't panic.
Be prepared, don't panic. We just get it on a slogan.
I think
somewhere.
that would be perfect, you know. Any self-done.
I think there's a saying that sums it up perfectly of shy burns get now.
Perfect, exactly.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely.
So it's always worth taking a look.
Perfect. Would that be your advice? You got anything else?
Well, don't panic.
And we'll take that. Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much for coming on. That's been really good. Really
you for having
informative.
me.
Thank you very much.